Hello again, welcome to this video series on Windows Server 2016. Today we'll be talking about how to install Windows Server 2016-2019 on Oracle VirtualBox. It's just a continuation of what we discussed in the last video. And in the last video, we looked at how to set up Hyper-V Server on Windows 10 Professional as well as installing Oracle VirtualBox. Alright, if we're ready for today's video, I am ready. We're just gonna get started right now. Okay, so in order for us to install Windows Server 2016 or 2019 on an Oracle VirtualBox, we're gonna need some tools. I have listed some of those tools on the screen. We're gonna need, of course, we're gonna need the Windows Server ISO file, yeah, either for 2016 or 2019. And we also going to need the Oracle VirtualBox installed. Yeah, if you have not installed yours yet and you need help installing that, you can reference the first video that I made. I'm going to put a link in the description, or yeah, put a link in the description so you can actually reference that. And lastly, we're going to have to create a virtual machine in Oracle VirtualBox. Okay, if you're ready, let's just get started with the process. We're gonna go through each of these one after the other. We're gonna start from the very bottom and move all the way to the top. So I'm gonna pull up my screen that has Oracle VirtualBox right now. Okay, so right here you can see Oracle VirtualBox already installed. The first thing we're gonna do, like I said, we're gonna start from the bottom. Is to create an Oracle VirtualBox machine. Create an Oracle virtual machine. And how do you do that? Once you have Oracle VM VirtualBox Manager opened, if you have installed it, you're going to see an icon on your desktop that looks something like this. You just double click on that. That should bring up the Oracle VirtualBox Manager. Now, once you have that open, the first thing that we're gonna do is to create a new virtual machine. And if you look on this menu right there, you have the new. So we're just gonna click on that new. And remember, we're gonna be installing Windows Server 2016 or 2019, whichever version you have. So the first thing you're gonna do when you click on new is to give a name, give a name to your virtual machine. We're gonna be installing Windows Server. I'm gonna be doing Windows Server 2016, so I might just decide to call my machine. You know, I'm just gonna stick with a simple name. I'm gonna call this machine London as LONDC1. Yeah, I'm just gonna follow the Microsoft naming convention, so that will be LON-DC1. So this server we're gonna be installing, we're going to configure this server as a domain controller. So now the next thing, you're going to select the location where you want to save your virtual machine. If you're going to be using an external hard drive or you want to save your machine to an external hard drive or an external storage, you're going to change that from here. But I'm going to leave it the way it is. The default is to save this virtual machine in I believe in your roaming folder. That's where it saves to, but you can change the location to wherever you want to change it to. Just go to others and select wherever you want to go. Select others and you just choose any other location you want to, but for the sake of this video I'm going to stick with the defaults. But again, if you want to change to your hard drive or change to any external storage, it's pretty easy and straightforward. Just come right here and select. I'm just gonna see, just select the drive you want. Go to your PC, select the drive you want to use. You can use external hard drive, whatever, but I'm gonna stick with the default. And the next thing, we're gonna select the type of virtual machine we want to create. In this instance, we're creating a Windows virtual machine, so I'm just gonna leave it as Microsoft Windows. Then the last option I'm going to select, it will be the version of Windows I want to create. Now, the reason why you need to select the right version is because Oracle VirtualBox, size your machine, to meet the minimum requirement for that machine. For example, if you're going to install Windows Server 2016, I'm just going to scroll down here and look for Windows 2016 or 2019. There's a minimum RAM size, there's a minimum hard drive size that is needed. So by selecting the appropriate version, VirtualBox is going to set the minimum automatically for you. So I'm going to click on next. Yeah, the minimum RAM is 2 gigs. You can decide to increase or reduce this. Now, this is gonna depend on how much RAM you have. In my instance, I have over 32 gigs of RAM, so I can decide to slide this. I can decide to make this 4 gigs if I want, or make it 3 gigs. I just leave it at leave it at 3 gigs. But make sure you have enough memory to accommodate this. If you don't have enough memory, your machine is gonna fail. So I'm going to click next. We'll select the hard drive. Now, because we're creating a new virtual machine, I'm just going to leave it as the default to create a virtual hard drive. Now, if you have if you have a virtual hard drive that you've created before now that you want to pair or you want to match to the machine you want to install, you can select that from your use existing virtual hard drive. But I don't have any, so I'm going to create a new one. So I'm going to click on create. It's going to ask me for the type of file I want to use. Now, usually I select VHD, and I'll tell you why I do that. The reason I do that is because VHD is compatible with other hypervisors. But yeah, if you select VDI, VDI is just it's a machine image for VirtualBox. But let's take for instance you're doing some work on VirtualBox and you want to switch to let's say other hypervisors like VMware or things like that. You would be able to switch virtual hard drive if you select the virtual hard drive because the VHD is more or less like a common standard amongst several virtual machines. But VDI, I believe, is proprietary to Oracle VirtualBox. So I usually select VHD just so that just in case I want to use another hypervisor in the future. So I select that and I will click on next. Now it's gonna ask me how do I want to now it's gonna ask how you want to allocate the space on the hard drive. Now I'm gonna leave it as default dynamic allocated. Now what this does is basically it expands the drive, you know, as you go along the line. So the more data you store, the more the drive expands up to the maximum which we selected from the previous step up to the maximum. I think we selected 50 gigs of hard drive space. So up to a maximum of 50 gigs, the drive will keep expanding until it gets to 50 gigs. Then it's gonna stop. So the beauty of doing the dynamic is that it doesn't take up all the space on your physical hard drive immediately. It only takes what it needs per time until it gets to the maximum. But if you select fixed size, what's going to happen is the virtual machine is going to take up all the space that you allocated to it immediately. But I'll just leave it as dynamic. It's easier that way. Just going to click next, and now it's asking me to select the size of the hard drive. It's going to be 50 gigs, and this is where it's going to be stored. I'm okay with that location. Again, if you want to change, you can change this if you want to any location you want to store your hard drive, but I'll just leave it as default. It's more convenient for me and easier. I'm just going to click on create. That is going to create my virtual machine, and boom, our virtual machine has been created. Okay, so we have done one of the requirement from our diagram. If we go back to our list, we're supposed to create an Oracle virtual machine, and so we've done that, and of course, we've confirmed that VirtualBox is installed. Otherwise, we can't create a virtual machine. Now, the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna install Windows Server, and we're gonna need our ISO file. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to link your ISO file to your virtual machine or your virtual disk drive. I'm going to show you that right now, and we will continue. Okay, so back to our virtual machine. So we created our virtual machine already. The first thing you want to do to link your ISO file to your virtual machine is to select the virtual machine. Obviously, select it because it's the only one there. You're gonna go to settings, and we're gonna go all the way down to storage. Then we're gonna go to our disk drive, and this is our disk drive right here. Right now it's empty because there's nothing attached to it. Now you're gonna go towards the right, towards this icon. You're gonna click on that icon and select choose a disk. Now you should have downloaded your Windows Server ISO file before now, but if you have not, you can just go online and just Google Windows Server 2016 ISO file, or better still, the easier way to get the ISO file would be, I'll just show you right now really quick. The easiest way to get it would be to go to, I'm just gonna put that up, just go to Microsoft. Just go to just do a Google search for Microsoft Server. Let's do 2016 ISO. That's gonna take us, it's gonna bring up the search. So that's gonna be, if you look at the search results, you just select the first one that says try Windows Server 2016 on Microsoft Evaluation Center. You're gonna click on that. You're just gonna fill the form really quick. So we're gonna wait. We wanna download Windows Server 2016. And again, if you wanna use 2019, you can also download 2019 from there. If you want Windows Server 2019, you can download that too, depending on what you want to install. Because technically, 2016, 2019, they are very similar. They're very similar install. So we just go to Windows Server 2016. Windows Server 2016. Yeah, so evaluation. It's gonna bring up a form. We want to select the ISO. You click continue. You just fill your name and everything you have there. You click continue. Once you've done that, it's gonna take you to another page where you can download the ISO file. Yeah, it's really quick and easy. But yeah, it's really quick and easy. All right, so I already have mine downloaded, so I'm just gonna continue. So I have my ISO file downloaded already. So like I said, you go to settings, storage, you go to your disk drive, then go to the right hand side of the disk drive. You click on this little triangle you have there, click on that and select choose a disk file. Now I have my disk file saved on my external drive. So I'm just gonna click on my external drive. I think I have it here. Wait a minute, I have to look for that. 1 second, I think I have it. Okay, I think I have it in a folder called virtual machine. Yeah, I have mine saved here. So that's the ISO file. Just gonna select that. This is for 2016 server. I'm gonna select that, and I am gonna hit OK. So our drive is already selected. If you look right here, it says optical drive Windows Server, yeah, .iso. So our drive is selected. Now, once that is done, the next thing we need to do is to start our virtual machine and start installing Windows Server. I'm gonna click on Start. Remember, this server, we're gonna configure this server as a domain controller. But first we need to install the server. So I'm gonna click on Start. And that is gonna start our virtual machine. Just gonna wait for it to start. Just look at the preview window right here. Yep, our machine is starting up. So I'm gonna pull that right here. Now you need to be very quick about it. So capture, yes, we're gonna capture our screen. Okay, so we're gonna wait for Windows to install. We're gonna wait for Windows to install. So yeah, it's gonna bring up the first screen we have there. It's gonna ask us what language we want to install. English United States is fine. And the time and date, English United States is fine. The keyboard input, well, I have a US keyboard, so US is fine. I'm gonna hit next. Then I'm just gonna hit install now. So that is gonna start the Windows installation process. Now it all depends. It can take 1 minute, it can take a few minutes, it can take up to an hour. So, but let's move on. So we want to install the standard version with desktop experience because we want the GUI. The GUI, if you want to install the GUI version of Windows Server, you need to select the desktop experience. If you select the standard evaluation without the desktop experience, that's going to install Windows Server Core, and the core is mainly CLI based. But for this video, we want we want to install the desktop experience because we want to work on GUI. The GUI is just graphical user interface. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to hit next. Then the next thing, it's going to ask me to agree to Microsoft terms and conditions. Of course, if you don't agree to it, you can't go on with the install. So I'm just going to select I accept, hit next. I'm going to do custom install because it's a new installation. I'm just going to do custom install, and my hard drive is already selectable. I'll just select that and hit next. And Windows is going to start installing. It's going to start copying files. Then it's going to start getting Windows ready. So what I'm going to do at this stage is I'm just going to pause this video until this is done. Now, just a few things. Um, Windows is going to install. Once it installs, it's going to restart twice. That once it's done restarting twice, then it's going to ask us to put in our administrative password. So I'm going to pause the video right here and just come back when the installation is when the file copy and install is completed and we are prompted to type in our password. So I'm just gonna wait. You don't really need to do anything right here. It's all an automated process. It's going to install, restart the first time, then restart the second time, then you get the prompt to put in your password. I'm gonna pause the video right now. All right, we're back. So now our Windows Server install is almost completed. Now we are just at the stage where we need to set a password for our administrative account. For this video, I'm going to set my password to password. I'm just going to type that on the screen so you can actually see. So I'm going to set my password to PA $$ W0RD. So that's what I'm going to set my password to. So I'm just going to type that password in here. PA $$ W0RD. I'm going to type that twice. Yeah, same thing. I'm going to type it twice. Okay, so once we're done with that, we're going to hit finish. And it's just going to wrap up our Windows Server install. Once that is done, our server is ready. Now we can log into our server. So I'm just gonna now on if you're using VirtualBox, usually the key is usually different for each hypervisor you use. But for VirtualBox, to get the Control Alt Delete, you just hold the Control and Delete. So the right Control and Delete key, that's what you use. You know, it says press Control or Delete here, but you can't press Control or Delete in reality. So the right Control key and Delete is what you need. Or if you don't want to go through that stress, you can just go to Input, Keyboard, and click on Insert Control or Delete. So whichever method is convenient for you, you do. So either Control deletes so the right Control Delete, or you go to Input, Keyboard, and Insert Control or Delete. So we type in our password, PA $$ WORD. Just gonna confirm that. Yep. So hit that, and we are going to log into our Windows Server. We're gonna wait for that to load. Alright, our Windows Server is installed and we should be ready to go. Yes, I'm gonna select that. Um, yes. So what we need to do now is just carry out some basic configuration, basic Windows Server configuration. So we're just gonna wait for that to load. What we need to do basically is we need to change the name of the server. We need to check the date and time, make sure the date and time is correct, make sure we're in the right time zone, and we also need to run Windows updates. Yeah, Windows update can take some time. I might skip that for this video, but you need to run Windows update anyway. Just to shorten the length of time for the video. Otherwise, if we're going to run Windows updates, we might end up with a video that is probably going to be more than an hour, 2 hours long. And yeah, that's not the goal. My goal is to make a short video presentation of how to install Windows Server and how to promote your server to a domain controller. That's the goal of this video. I don't want to prolong it. So Windows Server is almost ready. All right, it looks like we are good to go. So the first thing you want to do is once you have your server manager opened, now don't worry. You see it looks like the Windows actually was small. By the time we install a few things, this is gonna go back to full size. We can actually view full size. But for now, let's just work with what we have. So we have server manager already opened. So once with server manager open, you want to go to local server. The first thing you see there, you see a very funky name. Yeah, we're gonna fix that. Then we're gonna also make sure our time is correct. We're gonna make sure the time is correct. And the last thing you want to do is to run Windows updates. Okay, so I'm going to actually do the Windows updating later, not today. Or what I'll do the Windows updating towards the end of the video. I'll just show you how to do it, and you can actually continue the process. So let's start with the first things first. Let's check our date and time. Right now, I am in the Eastern region. I have to change that time zone to Eastern region. So I'm going to click on, so how do you do that? You just click on the time itself, click on the time zone, then you select change time zone. I'm going to change my time zone to Eastern region. That will be UTC, I believe, -5. Yeah, -5. Eastern time. I'm going to hit OK. Yeah, the time is currently correct. It's 2:59 a.m. Yeah, that time is correct. So I'm going to hit OK. So I'm done with the time change. The next important thing I need to do is to change my computer name. Now, so like I said, there are 4 things we need to do. First, you want to check your time. Second, you want to, change your computer name. The third thing you want to do is to change your IP, and the last thing you're going to do is to install update. Now you change your IP based on whatever has been provided to you. If your business provides you an IP to use for your server, you want to change that. You want to change that first, but we're gonna go in the order of date and time, computer name, update, and IP change. I'll show you how to change the IP, but I'm not going to do that in this video, but I'm going to show you how to do it because I need my IP to stay as it is because I need to run updates. I don't have any other server somewhere that I don't have any other, you know, functional DNS server that can get me to the internet right now. So I'm going to leave it as it is. So let's change our computer name. How do you do that? You just click on the name tab right there. It's going to bring this up. You're going to click on change. Remember I said this server, we're going to name it LONDC1. LONDC1. So change the name, hit OK. It's gonna prompt us to restart this. It's gonna prompt us to restart the server, which is okay. We're gonna restart here, restart now. Just gonna wait for that to restart. Usually it shouldn't take so long, shouldn't take up to a minute to complete the process. We're gonna wait. We are waiting for the server to complete the boot process. Okay, so it looks like we are ready. So this time around, I'm going to use my keyboard Control Delete, and I'll type my password. Okay, so we're gonna wait for Server Manager to pop. Yeah, we're gonna wait for Server Manager to pop up. Okay, cool. Server Manager has popped up, and we're gonna go back to wait for that to be done. This is still loading. We're gonna wait for it. Yeah, it's downloading. We're gonna click on local server. Yeah, right there, our name has changed and our date and time has changed. Also, our time zone has changed. Our date and time has been updated. What else do we need to do? Now we need to change the IP. How do you change the IP? Just click on IP address, and it's gonna bring up the connection. I'm gonna double click on Ethernet. Then I'm gonna select properties, and we're gonna change our IP. Well, I'm still using IP version 4, but if you're using IP version 6, you can change that from here. And if you want to, if your IP is obtained from DSCP, you leave it as it is. But if you have IP you want to set, you use this following IP and type your IPv6 address there. But in my case, that's not the case. I'm still on the IPv4 network. So double click on IPv4. You're gonna select use the following IP address, and you type an IP address there for your server. Now, by the way, if we're gonna be installing Active Directory and DNS, we need to have well, it's not compulsory, but it is important to have a static IP address. So we can type a static IP address right there, and also for our DNS. But I'm just going to leave it as it is for now. I'll leave it as it is for now. But that's how you change the IP address if you want to change it. I want to leave it as it is for now. So, but again, like I said, usually your company or your business would give you a range or a set of IP address to use. So you have to change that. So the last thing we're going to do is to install Windows Update. So how do you do that? You just go to Windows Update, click on Install Windows Update automatically. Then you're going to check for update. I bet you there's going to be a lot of updates because it's a new install. There's going to be a lot of updates. I'm just going to check for update, but I'm not going to install them. I'm just going to check for update. I'm going to let that run. I'm going to come back to this. So we have done all 14. Well, technically, yeah, there's going to be a lot of updates, trust me. But I'm going to complete this later. I won't do that now because it's going to take a lot of time to complete those updates. So let's assume we've done all 4 items we need to do. Name, IP address, we've changed the time zone, and we've done the update. So in order to install or make this server a domain controller, we need to install the Active Directory role. And how do we do that? We're gonna go to Manage. You're gonna click on Arrows and Features. Then it's gonna bring up the wizard. So you're gonna click Next, and we're gonna select role-based or feature-based install. Then we select what server we want to install it on. Obviously, we want to install on this server, but if you have a secondary server somewhere, you can select that to install it on that. But we're installing on this server, LONDC1, and it's always important to change your computer name first before installing Active Directory or promoting to a domain controller, because once you promote to a domain controller, to revert or to change the name won't be possible. The only way to do that would be to demote the server. You're basically going to have to undo everything you did before and change the name, and and that's going to be a lot of work. You don't want to do that. So the first thing you want to do is to change the computer name. So select the server that I want to install on. I'm going to click next. Then I select what role I want to install. Right now I want to install Active Directory Domain Services. Yeah, it's going to prompt me that, hey, there are other features. You want to install additional features for that role? I'm going to say yes, add features. Then the other thing we want to install is DNS, because you need DNS in order to successfully run Active Directory. So I'm going to select DNS. I'm going to click on yes, add feature. Now this is the one I was telling you guys about. Now in order for you to install DNS, you need to have a static IP address. But this is just a warning. We're fine. I'm not too concerned about this. I'm going to go back and change my IP to static, but I'm not too concerned about this. But the right way to do this will be to first set a static IP address for your server. That's the proper way to do it. But you can still go ahead and complete the installation. It's not a big deal. The reason why you need a static IP for DNS is because DNS is an essential service, and uh, all your clients will be pointing to that server. And if the IP address changes, that's going to be a problem. So you need to update that on all the clients, which doesn't make any sense. So that's why it's always advisable to make your DNS, or the server that's going to be your DNS server, make the IP static. Okay, we're going to hit continue. We accept all the warnings and we hit continue. I'm going to hit next. And I will hit next. And yeah, this is just telling us, do you want to connect your Active Directory to the cloud? No, we're not doing that at this time. We're just doing a local on-prem install. So next. Yeah, it's just giving us some information about DNS server, what's going to happen, tell us what DNS is, and some of the things we need to take note of. You can read all of that if you want. It's pretty straightforward. You can read that if you want. I'm going to hit next. Uh, 1 second. It looks like yeah, the Windows update actually. Uh, looks like the Windows update. Okay, so we're back. The Windows update actually trying to mess up my stuff. So I'm gonna hit next, and it's gonna take us to just a quick page to confirm that we want to do what we want to do all of these items. Now, one of the things I usually do, I always like clicking on this checkbox. So what this is going to do is it's going to automatically restart your Windows server if it needs to. If during the course of the installation and a feature or a role requires a Windows restart, this if you check this box, it's going to automatically do that. Now, just a little disclaimer: if this was a production machine, you'll want to be careful. You want to be careful about checking that box if it was a production machine. If it was a production machine in a live network, you want to be careful. Now, in a live network or production, yeah, a live network, you don't restart server just anyhow. No, you need approvers to restart your server. But like I said, if this was a production machine, you want to be careful. You only make sure you restart the server during your change window, whatever window you've been given to carry out any change requests. You want to make sure that that's the period you do your server restart or do whatever you want to do. But you don't just restart server anytime you like. No, you don't do that. But because I would think if you're going to be installing Active Directory on a server, you probably have a maintenance window to do that. So it should be okay. It's yes, I would like to restart automatically. I'm just going to click install. Then we just sit back and relax and allow the installation process to complete. So our server has been promoted to a domain controller, and the server is going to automatically restart. We're just going to wait for it to complete that process. That shouldn't take too long, and we should be back to our login screen, and we can continue what we're doing. We're just going to wait for the computer to be done restarting, and then I'm going to log back in and we'll check a few things, and yeah, just going to wait for the computer. Alright, so now our server has been promoted to a domain controller. Now if you notice, yeah, it has been promoted to a domain controller, and I went ahead and restarted the server. If you notice, now we have our domain name backslash username. That's one way you know that this computer is already on the domain. So now if we're gonna log in, we're gonna log in with our domain name backslash our username, and we're gonna log in with the same password we set before, PA $W0RD, and boom, that's it. We are done installing our domain controller. I'm just gonna wait for that to load. I'm just gonna show you a few things and we'll be done with this video. Alright, there you have it. Our server manager is just loading. We're gonna wait for that to load. Oh yeah, we keep getting this. Yeah, I had to restart the server to complete the process. Now usually you don't have to manually restart that, but I had to manually restart it. So we're gonna wait for that. We should see ADDS service pop up here shortly once this is done loading. Alright, this is done, so we can see we have ADDS installed, we have DNS, and let's go to a local server. We should have a domain. Yeah, so domain is at datum.com, that is done, and IP, we're gonna your IP is done, the dates and times there, update is done, and that should be it. So that is how you install, uh, or that's how you promote your server to become a domain controller. I'm just gonna summarize what we've done today. So we, set up our virtual machine and VirtualBox. Then we installed Windows Server 2016. Now, if you want to install 2019, it's up to you. They are both similar. Then after installing Windows Server, we did the four basic configuration. That is to change the computer name, change the IP address, run updates, and change the time and date. Now, once that was done, we had to install we had to install Active Directory service role as well as DNS server role. And after the role has been installed, we had to promote our server to a domain controller. And in that process, we created a new forest because the server is the first server in our network infrastructure. So we created a new forest, and once we're done with that, the computer had to restart, and after restarting, we are done with installing our domain controller. If you have any question, you can leave that in the comment, or you can send me a message. I'll be glad to answer your question. Alright, thank you, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.